Hi, friends. This is Dr. Arpita Gupta Dipalma, and you're listening to my podcast, From Pissed Off to Poised. This show is for busy women physicians and professionals just like you who are ready to take control of their emotions while learning how to excel in juggling all the things they are responsible for in life. It's for overextended mamas who are trying to figure out how to work smarter, not harder. It's for multitasking women who are tired of playing the role of the angry and resentful air traffic controller, who simply want to learn how to create a life that is more calm, intentional, and joyful for themselves. My goal is to help you learn how to eliminate the overwhelm and maintain your composure in high-stress situations that you face with the demands in your day-to-day life. Because I get you guys, this was totally me. You are not alone. I invite you to embark on your journey of transformation with me. Enjoy the listen. Hi, guys. Welcome to another episode of From Pissed Off to Poised. This week, we're diving into some foundational concepts of time optimization that will truly change the way you approach your days. I'm going to start by talking about constraint, planning, resistance, and letting go of perfectionism. When you can start to implement and honor, that's being the key word there, honor, these key concepts, you begin to rebuild trust in yourself and more consistently start doing the things you say you're going to do. So the first concept I'm going to start with is constraint. Have you ever felt overwhelmed by juggling too many projects at once? I think we're all guilty of taking on more than our plates can handle. We all do this. We are badass mama professionals. We take on more and more because, quite frankly, we're capable of it. But I want to ask you why we do this when we know it doesn't serve us, when it doesn't feel good, when it overall leads us to feeling overwhelmed. We do it because we want to do it all. We don't want to miss out on the opportunity that might pass us by if we say no. We're afraid we won't be asked again if we say no now. We feel guilty about saying no. And we want other people to think that we're badasses and we can do it all because, quite frankly, we're badasses. But in reality, even though we like to think that people are spending a lot of time thinking about us, they're actually not. So we're really doing a disservice to ourselves by taking on more and more things for all of these reasons when we really don't want to. So here's the trick to saying yes to only the things that you want to do and want to include in your life. I want you to focus on just one main project or task at a time. Multitasking is not really serving any of us. And I know for a fact, as I've gotten older, that when I multitask, I make more mistakes and I often can't remember what I've actually finished in entirety. So it's not really serving me because I then have to go back and spend more time double checking my work, correcting things, and remembering, hey, did I get that done? Did I actually finish that all the way? Because I was doing so many different things at the same time that I was distracted and I wasn't able to keep track of things. It seems like we are accomplishing a ton of work when we multitask. But I'll offer, if you can look at the quality of the work product that you're creating when you're multitasking, you're probably going to find that it's not as good as it would have been had you focused on just one thing at a time. I like to talk about the soccer ball analogy here. And let's just assume you have 10 soccer balls lined up in a row. And think about trying to kick all 10 soccer balls at the same time down a field. It takes a lot more work and effort, and we're running back and forth, and we're really not being as efficacious as we could had we just focused on one soccer ball at a time, kicking it as far as we could, and following it through to the goal line. So consider that in your life. For many of us, focusing on one thing at a time doesn't really sound appealing. It doesn't sound simple. And it's not really very easy for us, especially because we've gotten into this habit of always feeling like we have to go, go, go. But if you can commit to sticking with this simple concept for 30 days, you're going to start seeing visible differences in how you feel, most importantly, and the quality of your results that you're creating. You're going to have moments that you absolutely hate doing this, that you feel like you could be much more efficient or much more productive. But I want you to remember this is part of the process. We're unwinding this habit that we've created, that we have to do multiple things at once to be super efficient. Because when you actually narrow your focus, You're creating clarity and you're building momentum that's going to carry you through. When you start to say no to the things you don't want to include and focus on in your life, you actually get to say yes to more of the things that you do want to do and include in your life. And this is how we start to live a more intentional and joyous life for ourselves. Next, I want to shift into the execution part and talk about planning, because this is where the magic really begins. A lot of people don't like to plan because they say that it takes away the spontaneity and it doesn't really create room for other exciting things in life. But I want to offer that when you actually plan, you're creating more time in your life to do more exciting, fun, and spontaneous things. So, this is where the magic really starts. I want you to consider these projects that you might have in your life, or these do goals, or these ideas that you've never really been able to bring to fruition. If you can start to tackle your project, including this project of maybe starting a calendaring system for yourself, as I call Thursday Timeout, I want you to set aside focused time to work on this project. Look at the end goal of this project and then start to break it down into tasks that you're going to realistically be able to complete each week. I'm going to include that it's so important to also schedule breaks while we're doing this work. Now, when you're doing your calendaring and it only takes an hour, it's not really a big deal. But when we get into this mode of having a big project that we're trying to tackle and we just keep going throughout the day, we don't set in breaks or rest time, it actually hinders us from reaching our full potential. So, with these big projects or new ideas, I want you to normalize including breaks. Many of us have been trained with this culture that if we continue to work harder, it's eventually going to get better and maybe even easier for us. And although some of this might be true, I want to offer that if we don't incorporate and adopt the mindset that reasonable rest must be peppered in between all the work that we do, we're actually setting ourselves up for burnout. Rest needs to be considered a part of the work we do. It's not a reward for after the work is done. Okay, I'm going to get off my soapbox. I know I got off on a tangent, but let's go back to the planning part of this. Okay, while you're planning, after you've planned in your breaks, I want to say the most important part is planning in a way that is truly honest and realistically reflects what you're actually wanting to achieve. Not something that you're going to wish would magically happen and become accomplished and get done. I'm saying create a plan that's truly realistic and not setting yourself up for failure. And I don't mean don't challenge yourself, but what I am saying is that if you create a plan and it's really ultimately a lie, it's only going to lead to further frustration for you because you're not going to be able to honor that commitment to yourself for getting the things done. So I want you to notice, what is your adversity quotient? Okay. Your adversity quotient is the amount of optional challenge that you're choosing to take on in order to reach a goal. So when we can kind of decipher what is the level of adversity that we're willing to take on, we can adopt that and use that to push us towards achieving these impossible goals that we have. So creating a plan that's honest is the first step. It's realistic and that you can actually do it. But then with that, also in your back pocket, having in mind, I'm going to be a little bit uncomfortable here. This is the adversity I'm willing to take on in order to reach this goal. And those two things combined help you get there. We have to balance being challenged with being realistic and kind to ourselves. So trying to pack in a full day of meetings without a potty break or scheduling back-to-back appointments all across town without ample time to actually get there is setting yourself up for failure. And I'm guilty of this. I used to do this all the time. I would always forget to add in the time it took for me to go from one end of town to the other to get the kids to their appointments or to do whatever I'm trying to do. And inevitably, I'd show up to the next thing 5 to 10 minutes late. I'd be kind of all frustrated and frazzled because I was not on time, and being timely was very important to me. So notice where this is coming up for you in your life, because this is where you can start to make small adjustments. If we don't do this, this begins this vicious cycle of not trusting ourselves that we're going to be able to honor our commitments. And then the more often this happens, it becomes more and more normal to just not show up on time. So I want you to think about this. Can you start to honor the commitments that you're making to yourself and maybe even to your loved ones with the same vigilance as you do when you make commitments to your boss, to your trusted mentors, or maybe to like this famous hot actor that you have a lunch date with, right? Okay, dreaming there. But my point is, we are willing to make commitments and honor them for so many other people in our lives. Where are we not doing that for ourselves? And where then do we need to make some shifts so we begin to do that? Considering all these factors, what about when you just don't feel like doing things? Okay, because we've all been there. We have something on our calendar and we just don't want to do it. Even the best plans will lead to resistance at times. We're going to meet it in the face. It's going to be inevitable. So you might feel like your calendar is a pair of handcuffs or shackles, and your brain's going to say, stop, we're not doing this. I don't want to do it. I want to do something else. And this is all normal. Resistance is just your brain trying to keep you comfortable and cozy and not push you through that adversity. But when you do push through, regardless of this resistance, something amazing starts to happen. All right, your brain gets a little reward. That's that little dopa hit because you're building a muscle to overcome this resistance, and you're seeing that prize at the end of how good it feels when you actually do. And how you push through is also super important. Okay, we do this by having a compelling why. What is your purpose or reason for going after this amazing goal that you've set for yourself? This is something that I'm going to talk about more in coming episodes. But for now, I want you to consider a sentence in your mind that reminds you of your why. Why are you so passionate about reaching this goal? Why is it so important to you? This compelling why is what you're going to pull out of your back pocket when the going gets tough, when shit hits the fan and you don't feel like doing it, to remind yourself of why you want to actually push through. This is the best way to overcome that resistance that you're going to face. The more you do it, the easier it becomes. So lean in and just keep on going. Here's a mindset shift that I want you to also try on. I want you to consider that could it be that time is just a concept in your mind? We don't actually manage time. We manage ourselves within the time we have. And the thing is, we all have the same 24 hours in each day. Time is what you decide it is, and you optimize your time by being intentional in advance of what you choose to give your time to. So I want you to take ownership of how you spend your time and let go of this idea that time controls you. All right, this shift in perspective is a huge game changer, and it really puts you in the driver's seat for where you are giving your time, who you're allowing the privilege of your time to be given to. Finally, I want to talk to you about B- work. More importantly, giving yourself permission to do B- work. All right. I know many of you are probably shitting your pants right now and hoping your kids aren't listening to this advice because it's so not in line with Tiger Mom me. But I'm going to tell you, this was a game changer for me. Again, a lot of physicians, a lot of high functioning executive professional women, we have this standard in our mind that it has to be A+ or it's not even worth doing. But I want you to consider this perspective that perfectionism is actually a sneaky form of procrastination. How many times have you had an idea or wanted to put something out there in the world, but instead you hesitated or delayed or never even went for it because it wasn't quite perfect yet? You hadn't figured all the things out. It wasn't spot on, shiny, and presentable in your mind to other people. The thing is, if we're always waiting for things to be perfect before we put it out there in the world, we're probably never going to start, much less succeed. So instead, I want you to give yourself permission to lower the bar for yourself and start to aim for progress over perfection. If you think about it, look at all of the things that you've already accomplished. Look at where you are. You are a badass woman. You have done super hard things. It is okay to loosen the grip a little and to allow yourself to start creating B- work as your starting point instead, to lessen this mind drama that's coming up for you that is telling you that anything other than A+ is not acceptable. Once you start to do this and you start to get some momentum going, you're going to be well on your way, and you can always go back as you're developing your idea and fine-tune and polish and perfect a little more. The most important thing here is to simply get moving because progress beats out perfection every single time. So before we wrap up today, I want to talk about some simple steps that you can take this week to start moving forward with some of these concepts. First, I want you to go back and get that priorities and wants worksheets. There's 2 of them, and they were in episode 23. I'm going to put them in 24 as well in the show notes. And I want you to fill these out. I want you to take some time and think about these. This is how you're going to then have a starting point to catalog every to-do item that you're holding onto in your brain right now, because we're using so much brain energy trying to think and keep and retain all of the things in our mind that we're trying to remember to do. So once you've filled out the 2 worksheets, I want you to catalog all of your to-do items and see if these to-do items fall into one of your top 3 priorities. If something doesn't fit, decide whether you're going to file it away for later or let it go in entirety. Next, I want you to start noticing how long your weekly must-dos take and identify areas where you tend to get distracted. Ask yourself, why does this happen? Why are you losing your train of thought? Why are you going off and scrolling on social media instead of focusing on the task at hand? Are you really not committed to getting this thing done? Is it not in your zone of genius? Would you be better off using your time for something else that is in your zone of genius and then hire somebody else to do this task that you're really putting off? This is how we're going to start looking at things to kind of analyze why we aren't doing the things that we have on our list. Are they really important in the first place? And if so, why aren't they getting done? And is there a different way we can get it done? A better way to make it happen so it's not so painful? Or can we outsource it to somebody else completely? Finally, I want you to look for times in your schedule where you can block 1 to 2 hours of focused work time. I want you to try to do this each day. And if you can't get it in each day, start with maybe 1 or 2 times a week. My challenge to you is to start this by first deciding when you're going to work on your weekly calendaring for the following week. Okay, this is this Thursday timeout process that I'm talking about here. Remember, you're going to likely have to experiment with it and figure out what works best for you. I like to center it around a major task in my week for how everything else trickles down into the planning. So I'll get into this in the next episode, but I do all of this around my meal planning. All right. When I get groceries, how I get my calendar done, et cetera, et cetera. I'm going to dive deep into it later, but figure out when you think is going to be best for you to do your calendaring each week. Next week, we're going to dive into the how of planning. It's all about building a system that makes planning easier for you so that you can be more intentional. All right, there's a lot of stuff this week. I hope you guys are starting to get some of these concepts. Like I said, since it was a lot, we're going to revisit a lot of these in the next couple of episodes as I break it down even further. Until then, I want you to remember, you're not just managing your time, you're managing yourself and how you view your time. So keep doing it, keep showing up. We're going to practice, we're going to get better at it, and you're going to start to see a shift. I'll see you guys next week. Take care. I hope you enjoyed today's episode of From Pissed Off to Poised. Remember, transformation is a journey, not a destination. So enjoy the ride. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review From Pissed Off to Poised on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback supports my mission to get this podcast out to help other women physicians and professionals like you on their path to creating a more peaceful life with more intention and more joy. I enjoy reading every message I get with your input and feedback on my journey, so keep them coming. And if you have a friend who might enjoy the listen, please share this episode and share with them. Lastly, if you want to learn more about my coaching programs and course offerings, check out my website at www.thoughtworkmd.com. Feel free to reach out to me to learn more about investing in yourself through one-to-one coaching so you can start living the life you've always wanted. This show is for general educational and entertainment purposes only. Life coaching is not a substitute for therapy or medical treatment.